Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, what is up? What is up? It's your boy, Dwayne, aka the Prince of Botch. We are back in full effect with yet another episode. But yo, wait, hold on. Stop the presses. This isn't just any old episode. Yo, guys, can you believe it? This is episode 25. This is the 25th episode mark. Oh my gosh, like 25 episodes, and we have already done so much with you guys, man. Thank you guys if you've been listening so far and you've been rocking with your boy. 25 straight episodes. If you're new and this is your first time listening, well, take the time, listen to this episode because it's a special one, and then go back and binge watch and binge listen. See, I just botched when I said binge watch because you can't watch something that you listen to unless you're watching the live stream. But either way it goes, thank you guys so much for every bit of what you do, every feedback, every rating, all that good stuff, man. Just take this time, man. I just want to say thank you and make sure you go back and listen. Like I said, if you're a new listener, go ahead and check out previous episodes. We got a lot of good ones. Check out the episode with R-Truth. Check out the episode with Selena De La Renta, Maria Manic from Ring of Honor. Check them all out, man. We had some great episodes in full effect. So by all means, welcome to episode number 25. And that's 25 for my Spanish listeners out there. Yeah, you think I do some Spanish out there? Oh, yeah. Me can do that too. But without further ado, man, let's go ahead and just jump right into it. I got a very, very, very special guest right in time for episode 25. So check this out. This gentleman here is a man of many, many, many impressive accolades. I mean, gosh, like, how can we do this? We're going to have to introduce this in a very, very ring announcer kind of style or something. Let me see. How can we do this thing? He is your favorite pro wrestler's favorite filmmaker, creator of Kind Punk Films, director, filmmaker with AEW, DDP Yoga, the most awesome rock band in the country known as Fozzy, the Cherry Bombs, and the Odals. I hope I didn't botch y'all name, guys. I'm sorry if I did, but nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please welcome my special guest on today, Nathan Mowery.
Yeah. It's the most exciting intro I've ever gotten. Yeah.
Hey,
Hell
man,
of an intro.
listen,
That's awesome. Yeah.
People tell me on the show so far, that's what I'm known to do. I call me the intro guy, man. I don't know. I have a habit of just taking bios and accomplishments of people, and I can just make it sound like the most epic introduction. But I do appreciate that, brother. It is humbling to hear that those skills are very, very great for interviewing people like you, my friend.
Hey, thanks.
So how are you feeling today, brother? How's everything going with you, man?
Man, everything is going good. It's been fun just in quarantine. I'm very much like a homebody, so I've been doing a lot of my editing just at home. So I've been very much enjoying that. So yeah, so I've been enjoying it, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, me too. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. I've been enjoying this time, like being able to interview cool brothers like yourself and just talking to different talents and people all up in the business, both on the media side and in the ring, out of the ring, all that good stuff. And like you said, man, I'm a homebody myself. So if I'm not doing podcasting, if I'm not making music, if I'm probably, binge watching, catching up on shows or playing some Halo, 2K, whatever, something.
There
something
you go, man. I feel you. Yeah. Same.
Man. So I have this question for you to just start off, really, just off the top. Off top, just off of looking at you, my brother, how often do people see you and mistake you for the likes of, dare I say, Brody Lee, the Brody Lee, or dare I say, Adam Cole, baby? How often do you get?
Actually, never. It's so funny because I get Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia all the time, but I never have gotten that. I wish. I feel like Brody Lee would be the Pokemon I would evolve into, the Charizard to my Charmander per se. And but yeah, the first time I heard that, but they're great looking dudes, so I'll take it.
Yeah, it was a curious question there because I said to myself, let's ask because there's always that celebrity lookalike or that in-ring talent that people are just like, yo, is this so and so? And you're like, oh, I mean,
Afraid not.
as much as I'd love to be, I mean, if it gets me in the club for free, then sure, yeah, that's exactly who I am. Like, by all means, So I had to ask it. Good little icebreaker question there for the listeners,
that's
right
always
there.
good.
So, man, where do I start? Let's just start from something most recent that I've seen on your Twitter feed, as a matter of fact. And let's just jump off top and let's talk about your most recent collab project with Le Champion, the Ayatollah of rock and roller, the man behind the list, the man with the light up jacket, the man of many, many accolades, the first ever undisputed champion in WWE history. All these things. That man, that guy with It's All About the Bubbly. The bubbly.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Chris Jericho himself. Talk about this collab project that you and Chris have done together called Entitled. I'm too old for this. Excuse my French, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm too old for this shit. Straight up. Let's talk about this. Explain what this process was like, what inspired it, and just tell the people what it's all about.
Cool. So I've known Jericho since 2017, early 2017, and to kind of set up how I know Chris, I want to tell you this backstory about how I met him because I think it's kind of funny. He came through DDP Yoga, the studio where I kind of work, and because DDP Yoga is half health and fitness company, but it's also half production, and the production team at DDP Yoga does AEW's production as well. Okay. So at one point, Jericho comes in and he looks at this room and he's just like, "Hey, this would be a really good place to shoot a music video." And then DDP is all like, "Oh, well, Nathan does music videos. He can direct it." And Jericho's like, "Oh, well, let me give you my number." And I was like, "Oh, you want to give me your number?" It was like a hot girl giving me the number, And it was really fun. And then we ended up doing the Judas video, and that was right there in the DDP Yoga studio. And I'm actually on fire in the background of that music video. Fun fact. So, but I met Jericho through the Judas video. And then after we did Judas, he just really trusted me and trusted my vision for stuff. So I was always his go-to guy. Yeah. So as far as the I'm Too Old for This Shit project, what kind of happened was there's this friend of Chris's named Ed Aborn. And he's just a very average dad type, lives in in Brandon, Florida. Very, very cool guy. But in the 80s, he was in a heavy metal band called Siren. And it was a local metal band. And then for whatever reason, a lot of bands break up in the 80s and stuff. But then you fast forward 30 years later, for whatever reason, this German promoter wants to bring him to this big festival. He grew up with them or whatever. He really liked the band. He's like, "My dream is for this band to get back together and play a massive festival." And so Jericho's like, "Oh, this is crazy. You should go and start filming it." So I came down with my camera and just started documenting. And then it just got crazy. And then they ended up playing a massive, they basically put their differences aside, reformed their teenage band as a bunch of 50-year-olds and decided to go to Germany and play this heavy metal festival at this heavy metal purist thing where it's just all people who are just super into metal and stuff. So it's called I'm Too Old for This Shit because like I said, those guys are in their 50s. They haven't played metal since they were teenagers. So it was really fun watching them try to get that childhood dream of theirs. So it's a documentary, but it's also a good friendship story, I think.
Yeah. From looking at the trailer and even just off the title, I mean, it captures your interest just off of top. You know what I mean? And how fun is it really working on documentaries in general? How fun is that process?
Man, it's fun. It's a lot of work because it's when for instance, I helped one of the first docs I worked on was The Resurrection and Jake the Snake. I don't know if you've ever seen that doc or not, but
yes, I loved it.
Yeah. So I ended up doing the assembly edit for that. So what that would be you go through all the footage. So I would just go through hours and hours and hours of footage. So it takes forever. The process, you're basically taking a whole forest and whittling down to one little like thing. It feels like, and like it would just be like, all right, today I'm gonna go through all this footage of Jake going to the DMV, and just hours of just nothing, and then eventually you'll find like a good like clip, and then you'll put it aside, and then you just kind of keep whittling away until you have like all your stuff. But I love it. It's very therapeutic, and it's like a little rock garden. You just sit there and just kind of edit away, and it's great, especially when it gets finished. So this project took probably about a year, maybe a year or two to kind of finish from beginning to end.
Wow. Yeah, well, we're definitely looking forward to watching it in full, man, because that looks like it'll be something hilarious, and it just, hopefully even turn into a real life movie from that point on off of the documentary, because that definitely caught my attention from the trailer. So let's, I noticed let's talk about more with you and Chris Jericho's relationship, man. And you spoke about how you guys, you spoke about how you guys met and how you came into the fold. And we'll definitely get to DDP and DDP Yoga, because that's definitely what we want to talk about with you as well. But, with Chris Jericho, now I did notice you mentioned that you were working on the Judas music video with him. So like, man, that was an amazing video. I actually remember showing that to a lot of coworkers and friends, man, just like, hey, you guys know about Fozzy, right? Like, people I knew who were rock fans, and, if they didn't know, I put them on to it. But like, man, what was it like actually working on that project, like working on filming Judas? Because that is like the most over theme song right now in the AEW fan base. I mean, you see, like, dude, it's just being sung all across the way, so much to where even Sammy Guevara himself took the time to do it as if he was a whole crowd himself. Like, what was that process like, man? Because that is an amazing song. So I know filming the video had to be just as fun.
It was a blast. So basically, Rich Ward, he's the guitarist of Fozzy, and he Jericho was like, I basically kind of wanted. There's a video called Garden of Eden by Guns N' Roses, and Jericho's like, I kind of want to do a version of like basically an homage to this music video because I think it looks cool. And then he's like, what do you think? And we were like, maybe we should add some extra stuff like in there. And then I was like, well, maybe we should get like a little person, maybe we get some like evil clowns or some balloons. I can light myself on fire. Like, we could just throw a bunch of random stuff in there. And we sped it, like we played the song back at 50%. And so when we sped it up in post, like, it gave everybody this weird frantic like feel to it too. So it was a fun project, and because that's all it took in the editing, and it was just one shot, like, I had the video done by the time like the shoot was done. And I remember Jericho was like, hey, whenever you get that finished, no rush, just send it my way. I was like, oh, it's already finished. So I was able to give him the video before he even left the set. And so he watched it, and he was like, this is like, I have it saved on my phone. He's like, this is the best video we've ever had. I don't even need to see any other takes. This is the point. He was so stoked, and he put that over, and like that's the cool thing about him. Like, he like that from that point on, he just like really believed in me, and so I'm like one of his go-to guys when it comes to like his vignettes and stuff in AEW, because he like really trusts my vision, which is like the ultimate compliment.
So, and you mentioned vignettes because that is so, such a dope art form just in professional wrestling as well. So with Jericho's vignettes, if you've been doing some of this, were you playing a part in any of the recent ones, like the ones he did with Vanguard 1 and everything, or was that all like a Matt Hardy kind of collaboration with Jericho, or did you play any part in some of his recent stuff?
Well, it's kind of like with the recent stuff, it's been primarily editing, like, but Jericho, like him and Matt came up with like a whole Vanguard thing with him in the hot tub and Release the Hounds and stuff. But they sent me the footage, and Jericho's like, I want you to edit this because you're going to get my humor in this. And he sent it. I was like, this is great. And so I edited that video. One video that I did with Jericho that I really liked for AEW is he did a parody of like this Cody vignette where it was where we had like Virgil and we had like him and all that stuff. So that was just like mine. That was mine and Jericho's like ideas and stuff. And I told Sammy, I was like, say Jericho's the youngest AEW champion of all time. And like, I was just feeding people some lines. But with Chris, like, you don't have to feed him anything. Like, he's just naturally just brilliant. And I remember there was a shot of like him like in his bathtub sipping like bubbly, and we had all these blue lights and stuff in a bubble bath. And and I remember going to that was in his hotel room, and I remember he was like sitting like on his bed, and I was like drawing him a bath, and I looked at him, I was like, man, if you would have told like 13-year-old Nathan that he would be drawing Chris Jericho bubble bath, he would have lost his mind. He thought it was funny, but yeah, so I'm like involved in a lot of his like as far as the editing or the directing, but usually it's mostly like 98% his ideas, and yeah, so yeah, I work with him quite often on those kind of things, but yeah.
Wow, and that's an amazing vignette. That definitely is one of the top vignettes, man. Because I remember watching that, and that thing went so viral with how hilarious it really was. Like, again, props to you guys on such a great job
Thank
editing
you.
that
Yeah.
particular vignette, man. Because that, even in history right now, it just goes in like of top things Jericho has ever done. No matter what promotion he's in, that's always going to be remembered as just like, yo, this guy is killing it right now. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, Le Champion, man. I mean, what more can you say about what's going on with that? So now, what about with some of the ones we've seen recently? Of course, as far as the Bubbly Bunch, as it's been called. Like, have you done any
Yeah.
editing with that one as well, or how's that one been going?
I haven't took that one per se. Like the past couple of weeks, I've been editing more of like what have I been editing? Oh, I've been like some of like the Dark Order stuff. Like I've been doing a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But not with the Bubbly Bunch. I loved whoever did put it together though. It was pretty fun. So yeah, so just a bunch of stuff for the show. But yeah, it's usually if it's funny or if it's like dark. Usually
Mhm.
I'm the one editing those two things. Like if it's like the Dark Order being weird and culty, then that's
Yeah.
probably my alley. Or if it's people being stupid, then that's probably me. Like those are my favorite. Those are my two favorite things. Either evil cult or
Mhm.
LOLs. You know, those are the two things I like to do.
Yes, yes. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, as you're watching, as you're listening, whichever one you're doing, maybe you're doing both. You know now the face behind the humor, behind the darkness of the Dark Order. So even so that means even with the Exalted one, I take it you've done some of those vignettes, the editing on some of those as well recently.
Yeah. So I remember like when like me like there's a whole team in Nashville that also edits. There's like it's DDP Yoga and there's like another separate team in Nashville that puts everything together. And so basically what we did is we filmed stuff with the Exalted one and just sent it to Nashville and they edit it together and then we played it on the show. Sometimes we'll like edit like the day or we'll shoot something for the show the day of the
Mhm.
show. So that's like what a lot of it is. It's just like shoot it, edit it really fast, get it to the truck, get it on TV kind of thing. And but we did a lot of the stuff with the Exalted one, even if it's like not like I shot the first like two or three, like with the steak and everything when he was yelling at people. So we shot that. Or I shot that one and that was really fun. And also, just so you guys know, if you saw the steak vignette, by the
Uh-oh.
Exalted one, I want to let you know that that was the greatest steak I have ever eaten in my entire life. We we made 6 of them, and then they were like, "Hey, we have like an extra one if you want it." I was like, "Sure." I went home and I ate that thing. Man, that was I still think about it. It's hard for me to watch that vignette and just not have my mouth watering because that steak was unbelievable.
I'm telling you, man, especially when it was just like, wait, you don't even get to eat before I eat. And it's just like, wait a minute, like such a waste of steak there. And it was just like, oh man.
Yeah,
So I can imagine, like when you see a perfectly great tasting steak like that just go to waste, it's like, oh man, that could have
yeah,
been in my belly right now.
I know. Yeah.
Man, so let's really talk about the art of the vignette, man, because me myself, I've always in my fandom of pro wrestling, man, I've always appreciated and loved and admired the art of the vignette, man, because it always did a great job of either getting you hyped for a return of a certain superstar or getting you hyped for the debut of a certain superstar that you
Mm.
probably want to know about. Even for the most part, just in promos in general. I mean, I think about The Rock and John Cena's promos and like how The Rock was filming, like cutting promos on John Cena and literally like he's sitting in Boston and he's just like those, and you're just sitting there and you're like, man, all these different vignettes, man. Like the fact that so much goes into that. Like, talk about that as an editor. What is that process just like both between filming and then, of course, doing what you do and editing it as well?
Yeah, when I'm shooting, I'm usually editing it in my head and everything, like especially for vignettes, and we like doing like the pre-match like hype video stuff, like before like a pay-per-view match or whatever. Those are really fun to edit too, because it's just like, oh right, like when I was a kid and I was into editing, I would take like all the clips of my favorite wrestlers and just make highlight videos. So I'm basically doing the same thing I did as a teenager. It's just I'm
Yes.
doing it for TV, and it's awesome, and it's just like yeah, so basically just the process is just kind of like, all right, what is the kind of feel I want to get across? And I'm trying to hit like everybody's kind of like emotion. I'm like, all right, I want to get them to laugh. I want to get them to hate this guy, get heat on like the heel and make the baby face like look so good. It's just like you're just trying to there's an art much like the psychology of wrestling itself. I believe that there's psychology that goes into the filmmaking aspect of professional wrestling as well. And that's always a challenge, and it's always something that I really like doing. So, but yeah, I'll just think of like when I'm shooting like a vignette, like I just shot this thing with Luther, for instance,
Hmm.
and like he just sent me like a clip on his phone, and then I was just like, man, I really like what he said, so it feels evil. So I want to find a track that fits that. I want to add these like a subtle heartbeat. I want to do overlays where I'm gonna like I just like make whatever out of it. So it's just a big blank canvas, and it's just really fun. And I just really enjoy the storytelling. And I think storytelling in professional wrestling is something that, when done right, can be incredible. And I feel like a lot of time people don't, uh, you know, tell stories like they used to back in the day. Because you look in older wrestling, like you
Hmm.
see all these characters, and we connect with characters, I think, more than we do with like cool moves, because everybody could do a Canadian destroyer, but you connect with like a certain character, and then it's going to have a better match, you know.
Yes.
And I think that goes in there, and like that's why I'm saying like a match like Cody and Dustin is one of the best
Hmm.
matches I've ever seen, because the story was really really good and building up to that. And then but like you do all these crazy moves and stuff, it's not going to have as much substance unless there's a good story being told with
Yes.
the build up. And yeah, I
Absolutely.
kind of rambled there, but yeah.
No, no, no. You're good, but see, I love the dialogue like this, man. That wrestling fans talking wrestling, but more specifically, what I love about what I do here with Life's a Botch, man. If you can't tell already, basically, what I do is I speak to my hardcore fans, but also my casual fans, and I've gotten feedback from people who probably have never watched wrestling a day in their life, but they listen to this show and they're like, "Man, you make me want to watch wrestling," because I try to show them
Nice.
all of what I can to show them, make it relatable to actual real life, to show them like, hey, there's more than what you just see on TV. Like there's an art to
Yeah,
this, just like anything. We had
absolutely.
we
Yeah.
had a we had a production guy who did production work with Impact Wrestling, and we were telling, explaining the style of being able to just shoot action scenes like while they're wrestling, and being able to capture every facial expression, every, like you said, every move,
Yeah.
capture the entrance, and make the entrance look as epic as it is, and just all kind of things
Mhm.
like that. So even with what you do with editing and the vignettes and things of that nature, like it's a beautiful thing that, sometimes I don't know if people really appreciate it enough sometimes, because I'll hear some of those internet wrestling fans probably just be like, oh man, this was corny, or this is that. What made them
Oh
want to do
yeah.
that? It's just like, bro, sometimes corny is actually what makes it the best. Like, it just depends on what you're talking about in a certain situation. So, where I want to transition with you on that is, let's talk about the cinematic style of matches that have been going on as of late. What
Yeah.
were some of your thoughts as an editor of watching, if you got to see WrestleMania, what were your thoughts on watching the Boneyard match with how viral that went at that time, when they did that with Taker and Styles, and even the very unique, if you want to call it a match? I enjoyed it. I don't care if people call it a match or not, but with what the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and John Cena did, and then even Matt Hardy with all of the final deletions, and I'm sure the things he's going to definitely do with AEW in the future. Like, what are your thoughts on just the overall process of cinematic style matches?
Man, I love it. Someone told me that there's no rules or to art. So I think wrestling is an art form. So if you want to like do something completely different and weird with it, go for it. I think Matt Hardy is like one of the first people to start doing these cinematic like matches or whatever, and they were cool because he did that back. I guess it was the Final Deletion in TNA was probably the first one, and and I could be wrong. There could be other stuff out there that I don't know, but that's the first that I've seen of it, and like I loved it. It was just so different and so strange, and no matter what you felt about it, after it was over, you were talking about it, and the wrestling world was talking about it, and it was the talk of the town. And it's kind of cool. And nowadays, especially since we're doing these no arena shows and stuff, you have to find different ways of being creative. And like everything, wrestling evolves, and I think that's a really fun thing to explore. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of it. I saw the like AJ Undertaker thing. I loved it. Like, I mean, Undertaker coming on a motorcycle, Metallica blaring, just like at night. Like, yes. Come on. That's entertaining. I'm sorry, but it's just good stuff. And that's how I feel about the Bray Wyatt, like, Cena thing, you know, like just because I work for AEW doesn't mean I'm not a fan of all wrestling. So I love wrestling just in general. Like, it's not it can't be us versus them. You just got to enjoy all of it.
You got to enjoy it all. And that's what I love. I mean, I love the competition. I love the fact, you know, I'm so thankful for AEW and what they have done so far within a short amount of time, how much noise they continue to make, have been making. And I mean, you know, it's hard to, as a wrestling fan, as a media personnel, getting to talk to people from different promotions, like, it's hard to just be like, oh, I'm all this, all that. Like, I love every bit of what everybody's doing. Everybody's killing it. And yeah, man, I had to ask about that because I agree, you know, my observation, especially with seeing how viral that Boneyard match went, the Cena and Wyatt Firefly Funhouse match went, I said to myself, I was just like, yeah, this cinematic match style is something that really needs to be done more now than ever, you know, given the fact that, like you said, until we know the state of what it's going to be like with a live audience again for right now, why not do more matches that way? And then even with talking with producer Derek, shout out to producer Derek, even though his mic is muted and he is behind the background. I also want to shout out, like, when we were just talking about the fact that even with guys like The Undertaker, you know, you can do so much of cinematic matches with legends too. Like, even if they physically can't go in the ring the way they used to, or if they've lost a step a little bit per se, like, when you have a worker like an AJ Styles who can literally do stuff in a cinematic match where it makes both people still look so good, like, why not do more matches like that, man? You know, like, it just makes so much sense. And like you said, it just takes wrestling as a whole to a whole nother level, and it evolves it, man. So
I agree.
I totally. So what I want to do is I want to talk. You know, I want to transition and talk your relationship with DDP and working with DDP Yoga, man. We see the success behind this program. I have the app. I've used the app so many times and I love it.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, DDP, shout out to you, brother. You are working so much wonders. Would love to have you on the show where we can talk more about it. You know, so, hey, call your boy, DDP. Call your boy. I'm telling you, man. Let's talk about the DDP Yoga app, man. We can even do some live yoga if we need to, whatever. But no, man, like, I mean, let's talk about, like, what was your relationship like? Like, how did you guys connect? How did you come about every bit of what you've been doing with DDP and DDP Yoga?
Yes, so Dallas was kind of like my intro to the wrestling world. So essentially, like, I grew up massive wrestling fan. Like, I just loved it. It was just my favorite thing ever. My whole life, always has been, still is today. And so I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, when I was 19 years old to pursue filmmaking, and so I was there about 2 years or so, and I was getting a little bit of jobs, but I wasn't really making a good living, and I was just really struggling. I was like, man, I really need to get like a full-time gig or something. And then one of my roommates hit me up, and she was saying, like, hey, are you still like an editor? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm still an editor. And she was like, are you still a fan of pro wrestling? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, cool, I actually got a job with Diamond Dallas Page. That he put an ad on Craigslist, and I got this job, and we're looking to hire someone else. And I was like, are you serious? Like, Diamond Dallas Page, like the wrestler? And they're like, yeah. And so they're like, do you want to come up for an interview? I was like, sure. And I go up for the interview, and I'm at Dallas's house, and I'm kind of just like low key marking out because I'm, like I said, I'm a fan at heart still. Yes. But like especially at this time now I'm like he's like an uncle to me now. Like I love him. but at the time, man, I remember like I knocked on the door of Dallas's house and Scott Hall opened the door, and I was like, yo, you're Scott Hall, and then like Scott was there, and then I met Jake because Jake was there too, and I was like, hey, my name is Nathan. I'm gonna be working here because we were working out of Dallas's house for a long time before he got the actual performance center. So
Yes.
so yeah, I would spend most of my time at Dallas's house editing, and then that I was there to kind of help document the resurrection of Jake the Snake while also kind of making, marketing videos for DDP Yoga and whatever else Dallas needs video for.
Yes.
So yeah, I showed them some of my stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, we like you, and we want you to we want to hire you." And so I ended up working, and then I met like when I first went. I don't know if you remember the resurrection, the Jake the Snake, where there was a scene where Dallas basically goes on vacation, like he goes to Costa Rica, and during that time is when Jake started relapsing. So
Yes.
I started showing up about the time when Scott and Jake were already living there. Scott must have been there for like 2 months. Jake had been there for a few months, and this was
Mhm.
around the time Jake started struggling with slipping up. And yeah, I remember like Dallas came back from Costa Rica, and he was so pissed at Jake. And I remember like Dallas came back, and I remember he was just like ripping him a new one. And I remember I was trying to hand him off to like this battery, or some guy was like, my boss Steve, he was filming and he wanted a battery, and I was just like outside the door with a battery, just hearing Dallas just rip him a new one, and I was like, oh my god, this guy's scary. And I remember going to my computer and editing, and him walking up to me, putting his hand on my shoulder, and be like, "What you working on, kid?" And I was like, "Oh god, don't hit me." And then but then he took me outside, and then like he's like, "Hey," he's like, I want to get to know you, like he's like, "Tell me about yourself." We talked and everything, and he ended up just being the sweetest guy. And I like one of my favorite people I've ever met in my life. And all the good things you hear about DDP, like you go online, you almost exclusively hear positive things, and I can attest that all of it's true. Like he is just a great man. He really loves people, and he really helps. Like he loves helping people. That's his thing. So yeah, DDP yoga to him is like a drug because he gets to just constantly help people. So it's awesome.
Man,
But I love
that
him.
is amazing. He definitely, you can tell, is a great guy. I mean, even just it's ironic really when I think about how positive he is, and I think about how his time in WWE, was like, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. He's this guru, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, who knew, man? You were really living out your gimmick, man. Like you really are this positive guy
For
that's like
real.
helping
Yeah.
people out, man. Like, so who knew he got to be exactly what it is? Because most times, when people have their WWE runs like that, a gimmick they play is not really normally who they really are sometimes, But like,
Yeah.
you see a guy like him doing that, and you're like, wow, you really are this positive minded. Like, that is such a great thing.
It
So,
is. Yeah.
let's talk about, while we're on that subject though, let's talk more about that resurrection of Jake the Snake, man, because I remember when DDP was doing the promo. I remember, again, as a fan, I definitely remember like he was locally on 92.9 The Game promoting that film. He was doing like a promo tour with it, and he was talking about the film, which got me more
Yeah.
excited and amped, and I believe at that time, again, even DDP Yoga was taking off even more at that point.
Hmm.
So it was kind of like a double promotion kind of deal. But how proud are you from the time of filming that documentary and editing it? How proud are you of the progress, especially from seeing it behind the scenes like that? And we've seen him recently as an on-screen role on AEW representing, Lance Archer and things like that. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and people still talking about that bone-chilling promo he cut, and just like how he's just a master at just being able to just sound so great in the art of promo. How proud are you personally of Jake the Snake Roberts and just his progress to this day?
Dude, it's unbelievable. Like the Jake that I met the day that I first walked into Dallas's house, and the Jake that I like saw last time was doing AEW stuff. It's incredible because it's just like, man, I've seen this guy go through literally the worst situation and just stick it out. And like he went through hell. Like he really did. And the fact that he got sober and was able to stay sober is
Yeah.
crazy because people had Jake like on the, like death pool list. Like people were putting bets on Jake being the next celebrity to die, essentially. Like people were didn't ever expect him to get sober and clean, but he did. And just going from that, and just Jake is like such a funny dude. He's such a sweet person. Like he has such a kind heart. And but man, he is one of the best at talking like on the microphone. And you forget that when you spend so much time with Jake. And he, like I said, he becomes like a crazy uncle to you, and you start seeing him as like, oh, there's crazy Uncle Jake, and you stop remembering him being Jake the Snake Roberts. And then all of a sudden we're at, I think it was in Denver, I believe is where we were at, and I saw Jake, and like I was essentially Jake's handler, making sure he got there and everything. And I was like, man, this is cool. I'm really excited to see you on TV. And like, I was out there filming, and it was cool. Like when Jake came out, and I was nervous because I'm like it's one thing to like watch a TV show, but then when you see like someone on TV with a microphone, you just think, oh man, I hope he does really good. Like I was nervous, and then as soon as he opened his mouth, I was just like, oh shit, I forgot this guy is like the best at this. And I was like, that was one of the best promos when he like was just cutting one on Cody, and he was like, a wise man said, never turn your back on someone that you respect or fear. And he turns his back and he throws a microphone and just leaves and never turns back to look at Cody. I was just like, wow, chef's kiss, amazing.
I'm telling you, man, that guy, straight up legendary. And I mean, I know you can tell, man, a lot of people have been in his corner. A lot of people probably said a lot of prayers for this man over the years, and I'm just happy to see that he's in. You can tell, even just from cutting that bone chilling promo, he is in very good spirits, man. And again, phenomenal job on you and everyone who worked on that documentary, because it was powerful. I mean, to anyone, whether you're a fan of the wrestling business, whether you've dealt with addiction, whatever, it was definitely a powerful message, and it still holds very powerful to this very day. And man, that was awesome. So let me ask you, would you, especially after working on that, are there currently any superstars that are you're probably in works of, they're sharing their story, of addiction or just anything in general of what they've battled or been through currently?
There's a lot of, man, like once you start getting involved in like just the world of wrestling, you start getting to know people, and you hear some crazy stories, because wrestlers, they're not normal people. They're just like, they live like insane lives. Yeah. And they just say like, it's just not the craziest thing ever. So I want to do, so one of my best friends is Will Russo, which is Vince Russo's son. And first of all, easiest friend to bust balls about, because he's Vince Russo's son. And it's easy to make fun of him for that. And and I was like, man, we should do a documentary on your dad, because I feel like he's such a polarizing figure, and like nobody like no one really tells his story. And I feel like that would be a really fun subject for a documentary, is covering Vince Russo and just how much hate that guy gets. I think he's a good, like I've met him like a few times, and he's great. And it's just funny how people like, Jim Cornette like wants him to literally die, and they have like restraining orders against him and stuff. And it's just nuts. So I would really like to tell Vince Russo's story. And there another wrestler whose story I think is really cool that I want to tell is Shannon Moore. I don't know if you know who Shannon.
Oh yes, Shannon Moore. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So me and this guy named Dylan Freimeyer. So Dylan Freimeyer also, I like, if you guys don't know Dylan Freimeyer, he's also known as Sunny Days. He was actually in the Double Nothing Battle Royal. He was the guy who was wearing yellow face paint. So this guy. So what a lot of people don't know about him is he is like I will gladly take credit for a lot of stuff, but man, he really is what puts like the Road 2 stuff together, and like the video packages for Cody and Dustin, he put that together. Like if you want to make someone feel emotion or chills, Dylan Freimeyer, he's the guy. He's one of the most underrated minds in wrestling. I just needed to put him over. So anyway, me and him I feel like we were talking about resurrection stuff. It's like, man, I feel like I got to show Dylan a little bit more love. Him and Steve Yu, who's the president of DDP Yoga, genius. Yeah. So both those guys, just in case they were listening, didn't forget about you. I just wanted to make sure you guys got in there. But nevertheless, man, now I forgot where we're going. I was talking about Dylan. What did you ask me? I'm sorry.
No, you're good, brother. I mean, shout out to everybody that's getting shout outs on the show, because that's what we do on the Life's About show. Yeah. Everybody gets their credit and everybody gets put over, baby. You know,
Yeah, that's
every
what
now
it's
and then
about.
somebody
Yeah,
might, somebody might get a
it's gotta
shoot
make
here and
sure.
there, but everybody most times gets put over on the show. So,
Hey,
but
that's
we were just talking
that's what I'm
about,
about. Yeah.
oh yeah, you know it, sir. You know, look, man, come on now. But
No, now
what we were talking
I
about,
remember where we were going. Yeah.
yes, let's go
So
ahead.
I remember where we're going now. So Dylan, me and him, we have a wrestling promotion called Southern Honor Wrestling that's here in Georgia. Little
Yes.
fun fact: Georgia Wrestling Promotion of the Year, as voted by the people of Georgia. But that's not even important. But
Okay.
but
Okay.
no, but there. So one of the so Shannon Moore was somebody who came to our show a lot. He was he main evented a lot of our shows, and we just learned a lot about his story and his battles with addiction, how he overcame and everything. And he is just such a sweet person. And I feel like if that could be a really good story to tell, because I think he's very underrated. I think in the world of wrestling, and I think he
Yes.
has. I think he has a lot to offer. So I feel like people are sleeping on Shannon Moore. So, and I think his
I
story is
agree.
worth telling. Yeah,
I agree, man. He's definitely a talent that was heavily underrated, played a huge part. I know Matt Hardy would put him over for sure, man. I mean, a lot of
yeah,
people talk about Mattitude version of Matt Hardy, and it's like Shannon Moore played a huge part in that
yeah,
version. Right? Version one.
yeah.
Can't wait
Version
for version
one.
two, by the way. With
Oh man,
we're gonna see that in the next 10 to 15 years. Best believe that. But
there you go.
yes, man. But no, I agree with you. Shannon Moore would be awesome with what's going on, man. He was always a very awesome talent I enjoyed to watch, man, and such a great relationship with the Hardy Boys and Gregory Helms and everybody, like that
Yeah.
whole Carolina connection. You know what I mean? Like I've
Oh,
always,
yeah, that's some of my favorite stuff. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, Jeff Hardy is my all-time number one
Me
personally. So
too,
I've
bro. Me
always.
too.
Oh
Me
yeah,
too.
hell yeah.
Yeah, I've always been a major Jeff Hardy fan, man. I mean, it's wrestlers like him, Kane, of course, R-Truth, which was a dream come true to talk to that guy, man,
That's
and
awesome.
Booker T. I mean, I've got so many different ones that I really just like. My top five or top 10 isn't always necessarily like the standard of most people. Like, yeah, you got your Stone Cold
Oh
Steve
yeah,
Austins, your Rocks and Macho
yeah.
Mans and all of
Oh yeah.
those, but man, you gotta give props to the Jeff Hardys and just
Oh
everybody
man.
out there, man. You know what I mean? Ray
Oh
Mysterio's, all
yeah.
of them, man. Like, come on, come on. You know,
Oh, that's so good. I broke so many trampolines in my childhood due to the Hardy Boys. Try to beat them. You know what I mean?
man. You know how many beds I dropped off of, man. Did swan times in the pool. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Darn near.
That's
I
fun
think I
on
hit the head.
everything.
Yeah, I'm telling you, me too, bro. Like that was life for me
I
growing
feel
up,
it.
man. That was life. So
Same, man.
it's always a pleasure to see that, man.
Hell yeah.
Let's talk some more about because you were talking about. I want to ask you a question while we're still on the subject of documentaries, real quickly. What are your thoughts, if you've had a chance? I don't know if you've had a chance to catch, any of it, but what are your thoughts, especially as an editor and someone who has been involved with a lot of documentary work? What are your thoughts on Dark Side of the Ring, and especially with this season and how they've just been covering everything that was just like,
Yeah.
and let me put Chris Jericho over. So Chris, if you're listening, if you're watching, because you're one of my favorites too. Hey, you the GOAT, man. I call you the GOAT. La
Yeah.
Champion.
Yeah.
Let me put you over and say, your narrating skills, man. Is there nothing you can't do? This man's a commentator. This man's a narrator. This man is a rock star, a wrestler, a champion, like everything, man. A hockey player. We can't skip that
Everything.
either. You know what I mean? So I gotta put you over, Chris, because I love you, man. I gotta put you over. So we want you on the show too, man. Gotta put you over. But
Oh yeah.
but yeah, man, like what have your thoughts been on Dark Side of the Ring as someone who does editing and works on documentaries?
Man, I love it. Because I watched the first season, I was really into it, but I really like the stories that they're telling with this new one. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, they start off with the Chris Benoit story, which is that's the untouchable subject. So I was curious. I was like, all right, how are they going to handle this? Because this is a very touchy thing. But I feel like the way they handled it and told the story was very well done. So I was like, man, you got good interviews. Like, it was edited real well. Like, I can't say anything but good things about it. I really liked it. I was like, man, this was done so well. And you sometimes when you as a filmmaker, you watch other people's work and you feel like one or two things where you're just like, man, it's really good. I got to do better. And also it's like, man, I got to go edit right now. Like, it just amped me up. It made me want to tell more stories, especially in the world of wrestling. And yeah, the Benoit one was good. I saw the one with New Jack, and I think New Jack's insane. But yeah, like just great stories, and I can't wait to see what else they did. How many have they released any other ones from that season yet? Or I've only seen those two, I think.
You see, I had a little event that I was hosting
and the Brawl for
Tuesday
All.
night.
Yeah,
the Brawl for All, that was, I would say so far my favorites have been, of course, the Chris Benoit special, the New Jack one, the Jimmy Snuka one was really good. Like, I was like, whoa, I didn't even realize.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh man, you got to watch the one on Jimmy Snuka. It's gonna have your mind just blown. Like when you see it again. Props to Chris Jericho, who also did the narrating on that one as well. And I mean, it was an amazing story. So check out the Jimmy Snuka one when you get a chance.
Yeah,
Brawl for All definitely was great. I'm really looking forward to the season finale because that's Owen Hart. So I can't wait to see. Yes, I cannot wait to see the season finale.
Yeah, that's going to be editor, yeah. As a filmmaker who loves documentaries and pro wrestling, it's just like I'm looking forward to those kind of things. But
yes, bro. So I'm telling you, man, and I had to ask you that because, again, like you said, as a filmmaker, as an editor, as a man behind the scenes, like, I know great work when you see it, and people have really just been praising. Now, let me ask, is there a story that, Dark Side of the Ring, I believe, or actually it wasn't Dark Side of the Ring, it was actually TWM News, actually, on Twitter. They took a question that's been kind of going viral a little bit as far as, who would you like to see Dark Side of the Ring do a special on, from a favorite past storyline that you would think about? Or, because as we've seen, it could be from a storyline, it could be from, like, a lot of people have been saying Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan would be one. Who would you think? Like, who would come to your mind?
I think Hulk Hogan would be a really interesting character to follow because, I mean, he's like the Babe Ruth almost of wrestling to some degree, where it's just like he is like one of the most iconic people. And then, like, he's somebody that was just like the ultimate babyface, good guy. But then like over the past few years, he's like really fallen hard from grace for a lot of different reasons. Yeah. Like, so yeah, just to see like all the kind of, because he lived through two major periods of wrestling, through the 80s and through like the Monday Night Wars and stuff. Yes. And then you have all the like craziness of like all the Gawker stuff and like his whole like racist rant he went on and stuff that would just like said horrible things. Like, it's just like there's a lot of things like to kind of cover, and how he was kind of blackballed from WWE. Like the one guy you never thought he would be, but then he kind of comes back and stuff. And I think there's just a lot about him as a person that we don't really know, because everything that we know about Hulk Hogan, it like when they did stories, it still kind of existed in the world of kayfabe. So I'd like to really know the real like Hulk Hogan, and like that story could be really cool. There's a lot. I mean, every wrestler has like some crazy stuff. I mean, even like essentially the resurrection of Jake the Snake is kind of like a really long like Dark Side of the Ring to a degree, but even like Jake and Scott have good stories. Like, man, it's really hard to narrow it down. I wish I would have thought about this beforehand, because I would have a better answer. But
no, it's cool. Look, bro, there's so many stories. I mean, as wrestling fans, we know there's so many different stories that it's, even for me, it's hard to think. Like, I'm sitting there like, man, there's so many eras to choose from. Like, what would you talk about? There's so much. But I have to give props for season 2, because season 1 was cool, but I know that wasn't really my era with a lot of those. Like, I try to watch the ones that weren't from my era, but the ones like season 2 has been hitting me the most, because a lot of these were eras that I was like growing up in. So I'm like, yeah, man, like I really did. I remember Chris Benoit's death and what I felt like at that time when that happened. I remember, albeit with Jimmy Snuka, like I said, even though I didn't grow up in his era, still in watching it, it was like, whoa, I would have never guessed the way he was, still praised for so many years in WWE and then I see now why he's practically blackballed almost as far as like
Yeah.
his name now. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like it is so much, man, that I would love to see, but it's like you said, it's tough. So, next time we have you on the show, man, we'll definitely have that brainstorm and just, kind of be like,
Oh yeah.
this,
Yeah, I'll probably say, I guarantee, like the second like this ends, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I should have said this. Like, I'll think of a perfect example. I'm
Listen,
sure.
me too, brother. And that's the beauty of life, Botch, because that's gonna happen. Sometimes with thoughts, you're gonna botch them, but you'll come back and you'll make them up later. We just laugh about it.
Exactly.
So I want to talk to you real quick about, you did mention Southern Honor of Wrestling, and of course, Georgia Promotion of the Year. Toot toot of the horn, putting them over as we do. What I love, because again, and I'm sure you can relate as a wrestling fan, it is so tough to watch everything wrestling related because there's so much wrestling, especially now in 2020. There's so many promotions. What, to a person listening, watching, viewing, what is your pitch? What would you tell them who doesn't know about Southern Honor of Wrestling? How would you pitch it to them to check it out and want to watch what Georgia is calling the promotion of the year?
So if you've been watching Dynamite over the past few weeks, where we've been doing the empty arena shows, you'll see a lot of like people from the Nightmare Factory school. A lot of the people that you see are people who wrestle at Southern Honor. So a lot of the next generation like kind of come through like our show almost. Like Austin Theory was our champion, and he was just in WrestleMania. Like he wrestled for us or he wasn't our champion, but he was like one of our main guys last year, and now it's like, wow, like a year later, this guy's competing at WrestleMania. So just like it is very much like we looked at how Georgia is doing wrestling, and we were like, okay, we could do better than this, because we got sick and tired of like flea market kind of like, backwoods hillbilly like wrestling. We wanted to make it a show, and we got good production. So we wanted to be PWG but with just in the style of the wrestling, where it's just all these fans. We like draw an average of like 500 people like a show, and then we have these big screens. We have we are using Fozzy's lights and smoke. Sorry, Chris. He doesn't know that. And we'll like it's just some of the best indie wrestling like that there is like in Georgia, man. Like if you ever saw for instance, like Jericho and Kenny Omega, I don't know if you ever saw that video where they appeared at a random indie show, and so that was our show. And Jericho so Jericho wanted to do it at Southern Honor, and I remember afterwards he's like, man, I haven't been in front of a crowd like of this size since I wrestled at ECW. So the fact that Jericho would like want to make his appearance at Southern Honor because he knew it would get buzz, I think says a lot to the company. And I think we have some of the best matches. We have such a cool look to it. Like, hey, like if you like you can go in IWTV, like independent wrestling. I don't know if you have an account on that or not, but it's worth getting anyway. You can watch if you use promo code SHW, you get 5 days for free. So you can go binge watch all the Southern Honors. Go see the show here.
There you go.
See Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho in our little ring in Canton, Georgia, and just beating everybody up. So everyone losing their minds.
Come on, man. Shameless plug. Nothing wrong with it. You know what I mean? Gotta give it to
that's
him.
the thing, man. Hey, you work in wrestling, man. You gotta know how to like plug yourself shamelessly. It's what it's about. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's my own merch. Yeah.
Come on now. And speaking of shameless plug, make sure you follow our sponsors at Gwinnett Nutrition, where you can get your protein shakes and your loaded teas, which are very, very awesome. So make sure you check it out if you're in your local Gwinnett area. That is Gwinnett Nutrition, home to get you, especially if you're a wrestler listening to the show. I mean, I know you got to have your protein, man. You got to build. You got to make sure you get that meal replacement in there, baby. So if you're in the Gwinnett area, which most of you guys usually are, because Gwinnett is a very popping area in the Atlanta North Metro area. So be sure you check out Gwinnett Nutrition. Shameless plug, like I said, hey, that's how we do it on the Lights of My podcast, baby. Man, wow, man. So and speaking of your time with the Indies, I want to talk about one of my favorite up and coming indie wrestlers right now. She is such an awesome woman, man. The real mean girl, but yet looks like such a sweetheart. Miss Danny Jordan. Can we talk about Danny Jordan? What's your relationship like with Miss Danny, man? We'll
She
talk
is
about
a
it.
she's a very mean girl, first of all. She's just so mean. Now she like she's like one of our big draws at Southern Honor Wrestling too, which is fun. She's really good. Like, and she's been on AEW a few times, so like
Yeah,
she's a good friend of mine, and like we work together at Southern Honor and also with at DDP Yoga and all that good stuff. Really
yeah,
really good talent. Yeah, she's great. I think she really can, like, I really love the whole like she has like a burn book and everything that she's been putting people in,
yes,
and
yeah.
everything, but she is just super rad, super talented. I'm excited to see where she goes, because I think like just a matter of who's gonna pick her up, and hopefully it'll be AEW, because she's been showing her face around there a lot more.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think AEW, that women's division, man, it definitely needs an extra spark, man.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
It's I mean, like, and again, AEW, if you're listening, representatives, I love you guys. But I will say definitely right now, the women's the women's division there is on the rise, but not quite on the level of where some of the other promotions are with it just yet. But they do have a lot of great talent there. Like I said, Britt Baker is definitely showcasing herself. I've really been more of a fan of her lately since she turned heel, because now she's catching my attention even more since she went heel. Like, she is embracing this heel like persona very well. Danny
Dude,
Jordan, like I
rules.
said, they pick her up. I mean, like, Nyla Rose, the champion, of course, you can't forget
Yeah.
about that. My girl, Big Swole, Erin
Yeah.
Monroe, can't forget about Big Swole. Like I said, there's so much great talent. I just think they just need, some extra kick in there, man. Couple more
I
personalities that stand out and get the fans over.
I
And
agree. I agree. Yeah.
but yeah, man, like, I'm really enjoying it, man. And Danny, again, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on the show. Danny, I've been trying to reach out to you. I've been trying to reach out to you. Come on,
I'll
come to the
I'll
Lights
get
podcast.
I'll
Come,
get a hold
please,
of Danny for you. Yeah.
come on, please. Let's get Danny, please. We need the mean girl on
The
this
real
show.
mean girl.
Okay. We need you right here on the
Mean.
Lights of Botch podcast, so you can be the meanest of the mean, not just to your host, not just to your
Yes.
boy, Prince of Botch, but also
Yeah.
you can bring out the burn book and you can literally just rant, just go out on everybody in that burn book if you feel like sharing it. If you do so, please. So, Danny, please come join the show. We'd love to have you on. And yeah, brother, let's see what else we can talk about. I want to know. Here's a crazy question for you. I would love to know this. What is because I did notice that you've been on tour with Fozzy. So what is I know that it is always tours are always just interesting in general, just regardless of what genre of music you listen to. Any music tour is always an experience. What what's the craziest thing that you have experienced on tour with Fozzy?
Well, it's funny because I've never actually, like, technically I haven't like toured with Fozzy. I've done a lot of different tours with a lot of different bands, but I did do this thing called Fozzy Across America with Fozzy. I don't know if you know what about that or not,
I've heard
but
about that actually. Yeah, yeah, I've heard
so
about that.
this was a crazy just kind of show for us. So basically, they did a show in like Fort Myers, Florida,
Hmm.
um, El Paso, Texas, and then they did a show in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the same day. like
Yeah.
like like full sets, not like doing like 15 minute, like full hour long set, like
Hmm.
three shows, three time zones, like one day. So we had to like go between like each venue on a private jet. So it'd be like done, private jet. They're already setting up the next thing, land, go in, play the show, get out, private jet, go to the next show, get out, play the show, private jet. It was
Uh,
crazy. I remember like that was one of the wilder things, because I just remember like how exhausted I was like at the very end of it, because it's like, well, sometimes people get little naps on the plane, but I'm like interviewing everybody on the plane and all that good stuff, and like I remember like just, and it just kind of shows you how crazy like hard Jericho works, because he just never really slept. Like I
yeah.
remember I was just crawling. I was like awake for like 30 hours or whatever, and like I remember I was like, how long, like, what time do we fly into New York City tomorrow? They're like, oh, like 2 hours. So you might even just take a 20-minute nap kind of thing. And I was like, dang.
Yeah.
And then I remember crawling onto the plane, and I remember like couldn't like. And I remember just Jericho's walking in. He's just full of energy, just answering phone calls and whatever. He just never gets tired. So,
Yeah.
that's one of the first things I could think of. Like as far as like crazy stuff on tour, just in general, I was on tour with the Cherry Bombs, which is like a rock roll dance group that I work with. Too funny, maybe not funny is not the right word, but as far as crazy, in December I went and they did a show at Knotfest, which was like Slipknot's big festival that they do, and it was the first time, I guess, either a long time, whatever the case was, Slipknot, like it's been a long time since they played Mexico City, so we went to Mexico City, Mexico, and there was a safety hazard that some fan broke, like the barricade, and they couldn't fix it, so they had to cancel the show, like after the Cherry set. So there's like there's like 50,000 people. So the announcer was all like, "Hey, so anyway, Evanescence and Slipknot are not going to play. So good night." And then a riot broke out, and so they went on the stage and they took Evanescence's drums and lit it on fire, and it just became a full blown riot. And so we had to hide at a hotel.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So that was nuts, and so that was fun. And I do a documentary series on the Cherry Bombs called Girl Gang, and you can watch the first season on YouTube. Okay. So the riot will be a part of the second season, which is what I'm working on now. That's why it's kind of fresh in my mind, just editing about going through Twitter and the news, trying to find more like footage of the riot. But that was madness. So just stuff like that, man. Like tour is like it's really fun and really laid back, but at the same time, out of nowhere, you'll get something crazy like that. That kind of happens.
Oh man. Wow, I'm still tripping off just the fact that you said they literally just set drums on fire. Like, dude, I'm like, man, production cost on that one, boy, that's definitely
It was just not a good. Oh, I don't know if I have a photo on my phone anywhere. I don't know if I do. Wait, hold on. You can't really see it, but that's like a drum set that's on fire. Yeah, so it was full on. Yeah, just full on riot. You can't really see it on there, but you guys get the point.
As a drummer, that hurts my soul. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Woo! Boy. Yeah. But that's a rock show for you, baby. It's you never know what you're gonna get, man. It's real out here in these streets. So that sounds like a fun time indeed. Like, especially the hiding part. I mean, like really, like you're probably hiding and then you're like laughing, like, yo, did that really just happen, guys? That was awesome.
It's one of those things where it's just like you feel like we would be afraid, but I'm low key like, this is exciting. We like drove back and everything, and it was funny. Like I just remember the next day, like basically it was a 2-day festival, and then we decided to pull out of the follow up the next day. Like we were like, yeah, we're not gonna like go and like do a show the next day there because it clearly is not like working out very well. You can tell by the night before. So we decided to peace out. So we didn't go to the next day. So that was fun.
Oh wow. Okay. So what I would love to ask probably, which will be probably like my final series of questions for you here. Let's talk about I'm gonna break this down in 2 lanes here. So as the wrestling fan that you are, I want to know, what are your top 5 all-time vignettes in professional wrestling? Yes, in professional wrestling, what are your top 5 vignettes? And then we're going to say, well, then we'll narrow it down to AEW and we'll do a top 5 in AEW so far, which should be a little easier given how young AEW still is. So that one should be easier. So if it's easier, we can, you want to do all time first? You want to do that one first?
Man, that's gonna be hard. So to do all time, like, are we including like promos and like match hype video packages?
Yeah. It can be video packages. It can be match hype. It can be someone's debut. So like for example, like I remember Kofi Kingston's debut vignettes, or I think about Carlito's Caribbean cool vignettes where he's like spitting apples in people's faces randomly, like just stuff like that. So like. Or even like what people say with WrestleMania 17 and how Austin versus The Rock.
Dude, yes, I'm going with that. So Austin versus The Rock, I think it was Limp Bizkit My Way.
Yes.
It's funny. It's
Yes.
funny because Dylan, like I said, we had this big build for one of our Southern honors, so we're building out this big thing, and we were like, we should literally use "My Way" by Limp Bizkit and just totally rip off the Rock Steve Austin. So that one for sure. That's like that is the
Yeah.
BTR to them all. But
Yes.
like so definitely that. Man, it's hard to think of different vignettes. Shit,
I know.
man. I'd be easier just to do the AEW ones because that's a lot of different moments to pick apart in my head. I really like the Brian Pillman, like Steve Austin invading Brian Pillman's house vignette.
Yes. Okay.
That one,
Great
that one
one.
was fun. Because
That was
I love it. 'Cause I think like wrestling is it's more real than movies, but more entertainment than MMA or other sports. And so the art is when you blend that line. And I
yes.
and given the circumstances and the time and the way the TV cut out, you're a little kid. You're like, cool. Well, Steve Austin's going to get murdered by Brian Pillman. Like so I really enjoyed that kind of thing. I'm as much as people don't like it, I'm a big sucker for a good home invasion vignette.
Oh, okay, okay. So
So,
then what
but
about the one with Triple H and Randy Orton?
I still enjoyed that one. I thought that one was obviously it's not as intense or as memorable as the one previous, but I still think it was good. Randy Orton being thrown out a window. I mean, what's not to like about that?
Okay.
So big fan of that kind of thing. Let's see. I'm just trying to scan my brain real fast to think of all
Yeah,
these
and I'm gonna play
vignettes.
off with you because I got something that come to mind. So like you got a relationship with DDP. How about the angle with DDP being the stalker to the Undertaker's at the time wife Sarah? Hmm?
Yeah. So I was not a fan of the stalker, and Dallas is definitely not a fan of the stalker angle. So it was just
Wow.
like because it was just like it didn't make a lot of sense for him to do it because he was like stalking the Undertaker's wife, and everyone know that Dallas was married to like Kimberly at the time, and it's just like why would he already has like the most like one of the most beautiful wives ever, so like why would he be stalking another man's wife? It's just kind of
Yeah,
I don't know. I thought
I
it
could.
was weird. I was Yeah, I don't know. It was just there was just a lot about it that just felt weird, and then there was a lot of stuff I guess that happened with Dallas just because Dallas was a WCW guy, and it
Yeah.
didn't really go well. But luckily, like Dallas's run with WWE, his first run wasn't that great, but when he started making all these appearances in the recent years, they've been good.
Sure.
But yeah, I wasn't too big of a fan, but I usually do like those style of vignettes, as weird and creepy or whatever as they are. Like if people are just being really bizarre, then I'm usually super into it. So, and I guess if Final Deletion counts, I'd
Final
probably do
deletion.
that.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I really enjoyed the first TNA version of that just because like it was so fresh, it was so new, and it was such a big chance. And Matt Hardy did that, even though people didn't get it. And I remember when it first happened, I was like, this is the stupidest thing I ever got. And then as the week went on, I was like, you know what, I like that. And then I kind of started enjoying it more as it progressed. So I definitely like that. Yeah. Man, there's just a lot of really good ones. I'm like racking my head. I'm like, oh, I haven't thought about like ECW or like all these other. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
lot.
There's so many, man. Like you could just be choosing like all day, every day with some of these, man. And that's why I was just like throwing it out there to pick your brain a little bit, as a
Yeah.
creator and knowing like, hey, there's got to be something that just stood out. But when in the world of wrestling, when so many of them are so iconic, I can imagine that it's tough trying to choose from a library of so many promotions that
Oh, for sure.
like oh my goodness. So then if we can, we got a nice little list, for the all time. Let's go ahead
Yeah.
and just narrow it down to AEW then, and let's talk about what were your top five vignettes or promos so far for AEW.
For vignettes and promos. Like there's two like that I was involved in that I really like. So I'm gonna go ahead with Jericho parodying Cody was one of my favorite ones that we've done. There was a promo that Cody did. I think it was in Nashville,
Hmm.
where like it was a promo on Cody, and it was just so good. And I even Jim Cornette was saying that was like Cody's like hard times promo, where there was a line that says like this generate or like Chris Jericho needs this generation more than this generation needs Chris Jericho or whatever. And like
Yes.
that promo, I really like that one. Cody is just moi again. So yeah, probably that one. I'm just a huge fan of anything MJF does. He has some good promos. I really like after he beat Cody at Revolution, we did a little promo with him where he was wearing the whole I pin Cody thing, and I really liked all his insults. They're really good. Really big fan of like the Dark Order vignettes that we were doing and stuff. Like that one was really fun just to kind of come up with. We did one like where it was basically all the stock footage, and we wanted to put it at the very end, right where they went to commercial break, and it just felt like a regular commercial. And it was like a normal pharmacy thing. And then at the very end, we just made it get weirder and darker. And then it ended up just being like a Dark Order commercial. And even people in the back were just like, I thought that was a real commercial up until like they started adding Dark Order stuff to it. And so that was really fun. Just making propaganda for the Dark Order. That's always great. So that for sure. And I think my favorite thing that we've done, and I didn't shoot or edit this. This was, I believe this was Dylan's edit. And then Steve, the president of DDP Yoga, shot with Jake and Lance Archer. Like they did this like out in the middle of the field, and they just beat up all these like indie guys and stuff.
Yes, I saw that.
So that was cool. That was Darby's yard, which was fun. And so we just, or they just filmed that, and I think they put that together really well. So yeah, so they killed that vignette. So Steve and Dylan nailed it. That's my favorite one for sure. And there's just a lot. There's a lot of like I love the reveal of the Exalted one, the one we did that. I thought that promo was good.
Yeah,
like Brody Lee being like, "You're not the first out of touch old man to not believe in me," like that kind of stuff. It's just money. It's just great. So
wow.
big fan of that. But there's a lot to choose from in that regard too. But those are some of my favorites that jump out at me at least.
Yes, like AEW, man, major props on all your vignette work, man. I mean, things that SCU does, this town sucks, just like, all kind of like shout out to them and what they do. Like you said, the Dark Order stuff is great. Even MJF, like, even his recent promo that I saw where, he's like, hey, I'll be back at some point. I know they've been missing me. He's got his arm in a sling, and he's I'm just like,
he's like a hangnail.
Yeah, I'm just like, God, man, my guy, what can't you do that's obnoxious, man? Like,
he's so good.
Yeah, he's great, man, and just again, man, everything like you said, the stuff with Lance Archer has been great that they've been doing. What have you thought about if you want to call them vignettes in a way, I mean, or however you want to label them? What have you been thinking about what they just do with Being the Elite? When they do the YouTube stuff, like because I think about Brandy's promo that she cut one time. When who did she cut that on? Man? She cut Sean Spears when she cut that promo on Sean Spears, man, and like how she's just like it's like dark, it's just like she went in, man. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. So as far as like Being the Elite and Road 2 is like again, like that's like Dylan's baby. So a lot of the stuff he edits, like I'll edit stuff and I'll send it to Dylan, and then I forget who all puts them together, but that Road 2 is really cool. I love Being the Elite because it's kind of like how all this kind of started. It was just Matt and Nick just filming little travel vlogs, and then it started getting more advanced, and then before you know it, like Being the Elite was like what they build all the storyline for All In. And it's crazy. Like, everybody was investing in all these stories. It's like, oh, this is literally just built. Like, this arena is full of people who followed something some guy shot on his cell phone. So it shows like you can make a lot with very little, and there's no excuse to not create something. And like they created something from nothing, quite literally. So I love watching because I was a big BTE fan. I'm a big indie wrestling fan. So I loved. I was a fan of the Bucks and Kenny and the Elite. So watching Being the Elite, it was cool from it to evolve into from where it went to it being a part that kind of carries AEW storylines. And now off of that came like Road 2, and Road 2 is like cool. It was a cool way of telling stories and doing more background character stuff, which I really enjoy the Road 2 things.
Yes.
So those are just the best.
All great stuff, man, and super standout. I mean, the more AEW just continues to grow as a company, man, that stuff there is just super standout. It's different, man. It's stuff
Yeah,
you
man.
haven't seen before, and I definitely enjoy what the Young Bucks do, being the elite, and the humor that's there when they do it, and even some of the low key shots that get thrown in there in a humorous way, just like all that stuff. That stuff is just great. Also with a vignette, I think I forgot, or a promo, I would say more so than anything. John Moxley's promo when he officially became a free agent,
Oh,
and
dude.
he got to do where he had the dog chase them. He's trying to hop the fence and
Oh,
he
it's so
breaks
good.
through the wall. Like,
That,
I forgot to mention how great that was. That was
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, man. That was Nick Mondo, sick Nick Mondo. He's it's which is funny because I grew up a big fan of Sick Nick Mondo. I don't know if you're into
Yeah.
death match wrestling at all or not, but
Yeah. I've been able to see a couple of it, man. I'm trying to watch more of it because I actually did like that style, that hardcore style. So I'm trying to get more into it.
yeah, I highly recommend watching the movie called The Trade. If you like John Moxley's promo, basically Nick Mondo did this movie called The Trade, which was about the guilt that he carried from raising the bar in deathmatch wrestling, and it's done very much in that kind of style, and it's really cool. So I highly recommend watching that. But yeah, that was all him. That was 100% Mondo, and what a good talent he is. So yeah, he's just good friends with Box, and they did that. He's just really good at props and making things look really big. So yeah, really cool
Absolutely.
vignette.
Man, that is awesome, Josh. Well, man, we could go literally like all day, all night, just
No, I talk.
because you got
Yeah.
tons of, we're wrestling fans, but then also just with the knowledge that you have, man. My final question actually for you would be, in your experience, man, just from all of what you've done with working with Fozzy, Chris Jericho, so many talents, both indie, professional, your Danny Jordans, your Jimmy Havoc's, MJFs. I mean, just up and comers, legends, DDP, everything. What has all of that taught you this far? Like, what is something the current version of you, current Nathan, would
Yeah.
tell young up and coming Nathan? What is something that you would share off of what you've learned so far with all
Man,
that you've done?
well, here's the thing, and I'm a very like a very big believer in chasing your dreams if you put the work in. And then you work with someone like Diamond Dallas Page, you're being fed positivity. So I'm a pretty positive person, I'd say. But
And
I would say, hey, like if there's any, and I think this goes for anybody that's listening or watching or whatever, like if there's something that you want to do, like if you want to be a filmmaker, be a wrestler, film wrestling, just do anything, like there's avenues to accomplish that. And I think like when I was a kid, I'm like, well, I want to work in wrestling, or I want to be a filmmaker, and now I get to do both, and it feels like I'm getting away with murder. It's crazy, but the thing is, it's like, it's like you only get so many laps around the sun, so you only get to do like this life one time. When you're dead, you're dead. There's no second chance. You don't kick out from death. So you got to just pick the thing that makes your soul sing and pursue it relentlessly at all costs. Because I do believe that reaching your dream and goal is a lot easier than we think. Because if we have the passion to do it, then we'll find an avenue to make it work. So for me, I feel like I've done that, and I'm very very happy with those things that have happened in life as far as like my dreams and being in professional wrestling. And I'm very blessed and very fortunate. But that's the thing. I do believe you can literally accomplish anything that you want is if you really just put the work in. If you don't put the work in, it's not going to happen. So there's always people out there looking for someone new to come along who's doing it differently or doing it better. And you just got to be at the right place at the right time. So for anybody out there, if there's something you want to do, then just go do it. There's no rules. You don't have to ask anybody's permission. Just stop what you're doing and pursue what it is you love, because it's the best thing that you could ever do is accomplish that dream.
Reed, man, wise words from a very, very great guy. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I've been enjoying Nathan. How have you been enjoying Nathan? Are you enjoying this man's service? If so, make sure you follow this man. Follow this man. Check out everything that he's doing, because he's doing great, amazing things. If the resume enough in the intro didn't do enough, to convince you to follow this man, I don't know what will. People, I don't know what will. So please make sure you give this man a follow. Real quick, man, the final thing I have for you, we have a very cool segment on the show that we like to do where we call this the 2-minute promo. And basically how this works, pretty much like the art of the promo. Only in this case, you can cut it on pretty much any and everything you see fit. You know, maybe you had a bad day today and there was just something or someone that just literally made you say, you know, I can't get this out of my head, so I'm going to cut a promo on this guy or this thing or whatever it was. Maybe you have a favorite sports team that just really hasn't done what you've been wanting them to do in their offseason. Maybe there was something, anything whatsoever that just comes right off the top of your dome. You are going to be officially timed. I'm going to time you. And literally within 2 minutes, we get to just cut a promo on absolutely positively any and everything that you would like in a matter of 2 minutes. Are you ready, Brother Nathan?
I guess so. I might as well just cut a promo about Southern Honor Wrestling.
Hey, we can do that. Southern Honor Wrestling it is. So, without further ado, Nathan, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go.
The thing is, if you go to all these different buildings around in the state of Georgia, all these indies, you'll see everybody in the crowd. There's no one there. It's just empty chairs. Now, this is pre-quarantine as well because no one was going to these shows because they were all too busy going to Southern Honor Wrestling. You see, Southern Honor Wrestling is the greatest promotion in the state of Georgia. The numbers do not lie. It was voted. We swept the awards. It looked like there was an error in the machine because it just said Southern Honor several times because we took everything. Southern Honor is the best thing in the world. Having has Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho been in your ring? I didn't think they have. So what you need from all the way up to Canton, Georgia, and sit there and see what the hype is about. Southern Honor Wrestling, the greatest wrestling in the state of Georgia, and very soon the rest of the world. What it's about, we can't be touched. We cannot be stopped. And next year, we're going to do the whole thing again. Year 2020 and for the rest of forever in wrestling. Friday of every month. Does that work?
Man, listen, you have joined an elite class. I don't even have the time. I mean, literally, man, you're sitting at 1 minute and 9 seconds flat. You gave time back, which is a very rare thing in the art of the promo. Because a lot of times, many people will just keep on going, man, because they're in a zone. And, man, let me just say that was definitely a very well-executed promo. I'm sure you just made DDP, Chris Jericho, Jake the Snake, so many people that you know in your circle very, very proud with that promo that you just cut on Southern Honor Wrestling. So, once again, people, you already know. Be sure you check out Southern Honor Wrestling. Be sure you check out AEW Wrestling if you don't already. So, yes, if you're a WWE mark, I said it. Check out AEW Wrestling. If you are a real wrestling fan, it won't matter which ones you watch. You will watch them all and love and appreciate them all, just like this guy does right here. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, that about does it for this edition of the Life's a Botch podcast, where all things get botched, from the lighting in my very camera to the ways that I may ask a question here or there. Nonetheless, life's a botch, and it ain't about how you botch. It's about acknowledging the fact that you botched and making the most of that botch because, well, life is a botch and you live it, you love it, and you accept it. Now, Brother Nathan, go ahead and tell the people where they can find and follow you on all social media outlets.
Sweet. Yeah, you guys can follow me at Nathan Mowery, NathanMowery. Follow me at Kind Punk Film, KINDPUNKFILM. Yeah, that's pretty much my handles and everything. So at Nathan Mowery, at Kind Punk Film, come say hi. I'm nice. So slide into them DMs. I'll give you a high five. It's great.
Well, absolutely. And you already know this is your kid, Dwayne, a.k.a. the Prince of Botch, and you can follow us at all things Life's a Botch podcast. Follow us on YouTube, or subscribe, I should say, really. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, and make sure you leave those reviews 5-star. Let us know what you think about the hosting skills, what you think about the guests that we bring on to the show, what you think about the show as a whole, the concept. Maybe you just like the title. I don't know. Whatever you like, Whether you hate it, love it, whatever, leave those comments, subscribe, and follow us again on all things Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Come join the group chat. And oh, yeah, before I forget, don't forget to go to otsguys.com because, well, there is a network that is over what we do. And OTS is definitely that network. So be sure that you follow OTS Guys as well and head to otsguys.com. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, that about does it for this edition of the Lights of Botch podcast. And in this moment, me and Nathan just want to let you guys know that you have officially been botched. Peace.